welcome to Reality Vomit Podcast, an extension of the Vomit series of podcasts. As always, I'm your host, Mac Taylor, and today we are back to talk some more Big Brother Canada Season 9, Episode 13, the veto episode. No spoiler talk today, but we are going to do a little bit of best game, worst game. I did not get to do it last week because of the bundle two-for episodes, because of all the stuff going on. But now that I'm back in the saddle with it, we can get to the best game, worst game this week. So, without further ado, let's talk about the episode proper. We start out Austin being real pissed about how she calls it the double dip of being on the block and on slop. She's like, it's disgusting. Which I don't know if she was necessarily talking about the move or just double dipping in general. But she was pissed. Bray's pissed too, but I think Austin is more... I think Bray's more, like, sad about it. Whereas Austin's more, like, PO'd about it. But instead of using that fire to really, like, campaign, game, slam it forward, she really just kind of, like, backed up and, like, separated again. And it's not really the best thing to do when you're in this particular spot. And I know there's not a whole lot because she can't campaign against Brayden necessarily because that's her number one in her eyes, but she can at least, like, the plan she puts forward later, she should have always been gunning for, right? Vic's trying to play dumb with the duo, but they have narrowed it down to Ty or Vic in their minds. I don't know why they think it's Ty, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to make it so blatantly obvious that it's the throuple. But they do entertain the Vic idea. It's not like she's out of the water. And for most people, it's Vic. Beth then crawls into bed with Austin and Bray as they're, like, consoling each other. It's a little awkward, but it seems like Austin has gotten a little better with Beth. Like, she doesn't completely hate her because she kind of lets it happen. And she doesn't believe it's Beth. And Beth points to Vic and says, I think it's her. And yeah, Beth is correct in this assumption. So the Sunsetters then celebrate the noms going their way. Because especially for Ty, Jed, and Beth, they haven't had to touch the block. Which is crazy for them. That as big of a target as they are, they have not touched the block. So Keith is trying to keep Vic's facade up, but that's like an uphill battle, Keith. Like, everyone pretty much knows what's going on. But commendable that he's trying to still, like, he's not just, throwing her under, but, like, it's okay. Like, people know. You don't have to try so hard. But I'm like, why does everyone think it's Ty? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, it's too obvious that they would do this. You know what I mean? Like, I think Ty, if it was one of the throuple, I think they would have put one of them on slop at least, right? Or all three of them on slop. I don't think they would do what Vic did necessarily. So Bray and Austin call out Vic about the HOH. Like, we think it's you. She's like, no, me? What? No, it's Beth. It's got to be Beth. Like, no, I just don't think Beth has it in her to be that savage. Are you kidding? Beth is like, guys, listen, Beth's got to go. Like, Beth. And really, all this is, if you translate what Vic's saying, is like, Beth's with the guys. I want to be with the guys. Beth's got to go. No one's targeting Beth. Vic, stop it. Like, of the throuple, like, they're going to take out Ty or Jed first. They're not going to take out Beth. So Bray's convinced it's Ty. And again, I don't know why that's so hard to believe that Spicy V, a person who's so chaotic, would have this mess happen around her. So they get like this Canada Q&A bit where they have to like answer TikToks because they're really pushing that TikTok thing this season, which I think is really going to date this season years down the road when people rewatch it. They're going to be like, TikTok, I remember when that was a thing? They'd be like they're being vines in past seasons of Big Brother, like it'd be like, ooh, boy, that really didn't age well, did it? I think we're going to date, it's going to be dated as hell later. But in the house, guys get to see all their TikToks. Bray, imitating Spicy V, which was fun. The main one, I think the one that the whole reason this bit was a bit in the first place, is Beth getting asked who's the better kisser. And she really ends up with a non-answer. She says Jedson, but she would go back to Ty in an instant, which basically is just a non-answer to the question. But it was fun. It was an interesting bit. I'm glad they did it. They worked those throuple segments in there. They have fun. It's okay. And there's a segment later where Beth in Jed, or I believe it's Jed, are talking about each other, and she's like, I wonder if Canada hates me because of this whole throuple thing. I'm like, no, actually, I think the only reason Canada likes you, Beth, is because of the throuple thing. You're not really super interesting television on your own. But no, this throuple thing, it'd be different if Ty and Jed genuinely had this thing for Beth, and were kind of being split apart, or she was using them and they were really into it. It could have gone sour, but it didn't, because all parties are consenting to this throuple thing, and they're just having a good time, and no one's being offended, no one's hurt. This is all good stuff. It's all good in the neighborhood per se. So again, Beth, do not worry. The throuple stuff is your only reason you're on television right now. So they pick players for the veto. Obviously, Bray and Austin are playing. Vic is actually selected, so it's the first time since season 6 that the HOH plays the veto. Along with Ty and Roe. So things look good in Austin and Braden's mind, because Vic would use it necessarily, and in their minds, and that Roe tells them that he will save them. And I'm like, why would you promise them this? Because what I would do is hey, listen, when I get the POV, we'll see what we can do. Guaranteeing you're gonna use it puts you in a bad spot. Don't make any promises unless you're 100% sure that's what you're going to do. Because yes, you can bounce checks in the Big Brother house, but this could really it's unnecessary. You don't need to do it when you don't need to. He has nothing to gain necessarily from this. So it's a build a bridge. You get to have these girders that fit in these puzzle pieces to build your bridge, and then do this big sky. It's a construction assembly puzzle veto. Where they put the girders in the slots, it kind of reminds me on Survivor, when you got to put the planks in certain order to go up the tower. So this was a fun power veto. A lot more compelling of a competition to watch than the Counting the Rocks. So Bray's pretty bad at this. He takes forever to put those girders in place. This was not Bray's veto. We really haven't seen a competition that was necessarily Bray's yet. So Roe blows everybody out of the water, just completely smashes this, wins his second veto. And I'd like to go ahead and take this time to thank Roe's parents for making an absolute champion. I'm always going to repeat that. It's going to be my favorite Roe line. The Roe show will not go out the dodo. Austin and Bray assume the veto is going to be used. And so they're trying to campaign for Tara to go up. They're like, well, if this invisible HOH is so worried about a duo, why not just split up Tina and Tara as compared to us? Because clearly we can't win this. It is not a bad pitch. But Vic runs that information back to Tara, who gets fired up about Austin. You haven't even seen my fire yet. You want to see my fire, Austin? You want to throw my name out, Austin? And I'm like, if I was Tina, I'd be like, Tara, bring it down a notch. Like, if the veto's going to be used, we'll talk. But, like, let's just try not to get him to use the veto. So Ro's under pressure to not use it by Vic and everyone saying, like, oh, man, this could put you in some serious way. Vic's trying to strong arm the veto again. So Ro goes to Austin and Bray and like, maybe we won't use it. So they're crushed. But for Austin, it's like, listen, you made that was a good pitch, but it was too late. You need to have tried to have the Tara option presented earlier in the week so that they always knew the veto could present that option, not, oh, well, maybe we'll do this. Like, it was too little, too late. The things were already in motion. But I appreciate the fact that, because I gave Austin shit in the Monday podcast. And I will say, it was nice to see a semblance of a fire lit under her ass. But it was too late. I'm sorry that it went down that way, Austin, but you needed to play. You didn't play. You can't start playing when you're getting ready to go home. That's not how this shit works. So Ro does not use the veto. And so it looks at the moment like Austin is the target and that Austin will go home tonight. So now we're going to get into best game, worst game. We're going to go from 1 to 10 here, ranking the best game, who I think is playing the best game so far and who I think is playing the worst game so far. So best game right now is going to go to Tina. Again, she's pretty much stayed. Like, this house has been so fluent and people have moved up and down this list so much each week. But Tina's pretty much cemented toward the top. Again, I think she needs to do a better job of reeling Tara in more often. But, like, if they're going to put Tina and Tara up, they're going to take Tara out before they take Tina out. So, I like her odds right now in this game. And as we move into into the jury section, like, she can really do some damage moving forward. So I love Tina's chances. And so number 2 is going to be Tyshawn. I still think of the thruple, he's got the best social game. Jed is sneaking up on him. I think, especially after this whole... If Bray wins HOH next week, Ty's in trouble because he is still convinced that Ty was this invisible HOH. But I just think that Ty has a little bit of a better social acumen than Jed, especially since Jed is closer with Beth. They're considered more the couple. But again, who knows? Right now, the throuple pretty much are all number 2, but Ty, I just put him a little bit above the other 2. Number 3 is Jed. Like I said, Jed is creeping on Ty. And number 4 is Beth. So let's talk about Ty, Jed, and Beth together. They should have, by all means, have been targeted by now, but they haven't. And heading into there being 9 players left, they make up a third of the house. Like, that's huge. And considering that Kiefer and Vic aren't going to betray them anytime soon, things are looking really good for them moving forward in this game. So that's why they are 2, 3, and 4 respectively. Number 5 is going to be Tara. While she has a bad temper and can really blow up her game and her spot and just is very loose-lipped, sinking ships left and right, she's with Tina. And Tina's playing really well. And like I said, if Tina can just reel her in and just, really suppress that fire more often, I think we'd be looking at a clear-cut potential final 2 happening here. But I just don't trust Tara to be able to navigate through this game. I don't. But she's number 5 because she's with Tina and she's in a better spot than some of the other people. Number 6 is Keith, the Grim Kiefer. Yeah. If he just went with Tina and Tara more and Vic and just tried to take a shot, if he was willing to take a shot at Ty and Jed, I'd put him a lot higher. But the fact that he's willing to be loyal to these people who really have proven time and time again they really only care about him because he can help them move forward in the game. It's not a great look. I wish Kiefer was a little more self-interested. I think he'll go down with this sinking ship, and the throuple will, surpass him in the game. Number 7 is Roe. Now, had Roe not done the stupid move of, taking information Beth gave him and then 4 seconds later overplaying, if he'd have just laid low, not promised Bray in Austin that he would use the veto, not been so quick to try to turn Beth against the boys, if he'd have just laid low, knowing he wasn't going to touch the block, use this week for social acumen, I would put him above Tara. I would put him at number 5. I think he's doing great. But he, time and time again, he's too quick to the draw, and ends up as overplaying. So I think Roe could potentially go out the dodo next week because of his own inability to be emotional. And number 8 is going to be Spicy V herself. She did a lot better job with this HOH, but mostly because it was invisible and that she didn't have to flat out, 100% confirm she was the HOH. But she didn't do a great job. She still wants to work with the throuple and Kiefer. So she would get sent home before Kiefer, so she's at the bottom of a 5. So that's not great for her at all. And she doesn't. She's proved time and time again she is incapable of subtle gameplay, and that's just not great for her. Number 9 and 10 are Austin and Bray. Austin's at 10 because she's going home and she's the lesser social player of the two. I think Bray has the ability to recover. In fact, I think he'll make it very far. If the throuple gets targeted, if the right person wins HOH, I think Bray can go. Things are looking good for Bray for a while. If one of the throuple or Kiefer wins HOH next week, not so great for Bray moving forward here. But the game is not over for him yet. It is for Austin, to my knowledge, but. There's a chance, but it's not great. He's got to do a lot of work, and I don't know if he's fully capable of doing that work. And as far as my thoughts on Austin, just go to the Monday podcast. You'll see all the thoughts on Austin's game. Too little, too late. Should have tried harder if you really wanted it that bad. So that's going to put an end to this edition of the podcast. Stay tuned tomorrow for the eviction podcast. We're going to talk about who went home, why they went home, who's the new HOH, and what that could potentially mean moving forward. Will Spicy V win the next HOH and be the first ever back-to-back HOH? Again, stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Also, don't forget to watch our other podcasts and videos. Until next time, stay safe, stay nerdy.